Welcome back. It's the Kovacs report. Hello, Jimmy.
Hey, Angelo.
You read all your comics this week?
I have, yeah.
Yes, I read quite a few this week, Jim. Um, I've
Yeah,
got to
I read
say,
a few that I'm not going to review as well.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was where I'm going with. Um, how do I put it? There's so much terrible stuff coming out, right? And like, I follow some YouTubers, and their channels are basically just why Marvel is bad, why this is bad, and it's all negative videos. There's not one negative video because it gets the views, it gets the clicks, they make money, and it's great, right? And I'm very much the kind of person that likes to point out all the crap stuff in the hope that it gets noticed and someone does something about it. But I also understand that you can't just have a channel of everything's negative, right? I like to put some
Right.
positivity
Yeah,
into it.
yeah, yeah, of
But
course.
like this week, I tried to read as much Marvel as I could get my hands on,
Right.
and like almost all of it was just diabolically bad, and it's making me think like what has happened to comics. It's like these books still sell, which is the frightening thing, right? And like
Mm,
you'll get all these die-hard fans that will come on and downvote you and persecute you online because you said you didn't like Ultimates, the latest, Ultimates 10. But like, who are the audience nowadays? It is frightening. And then I watch these other channels and they're like, no, this is trash. Like the Ultimates 10. I'm going to talk about it actually, right?
okay.
It is probably one of Marvel's worst books, but it's also one of Marvel's best-selling books by Dennis Camp, right? And that's what
Mm,
terrifies me. Dennis Camp has an agenda, right? And I know comics have traditionally they have reflected the real world and politics and everything else, but they're wrapped up in a story. But with the Ultimates, is every single issue is um, a different section of activism that Dennis Camp wants to talk about. So one week it's capitalism, right? The next month it's LGBTQ. The next week it's trans. The next week it's Black America. The next week it's whites. Every single issue is a message, right? So if you picked up the top 10 issues in the world right now that, you know, dare I say it, are discussed and a lot on the internet and news and everything, right? Each of these issues is essentially his personal view and ideology on that thing, devoid of the story. Now, I'm okay for a writer to put in their views into a comic book, right? And try and get a message across which is maybe not being heard or something that he's passionate about. If there's a story and there just isn't, right? So the Ultimates 10, so do you know what? This is going to be a bonus review here. The Ultimates 10 starts off with Hitler being incinerated by the original torch, right? And like, they're all like really happy about this, obviously, because Nazis are bad, right? And there's this thing in the world about Nazis die, Nazis die. And yes, all right, I get it, I understand, right? I'm not supporting Nazis, right? Of course I'm not. But this is a superhero book, right? And there has to be a story. And the superheroes should normally, especially Marvel superheroes, they act a certain way, right? And then the Human Torch goes there and says, like the original Human Torch, who's a robot, as you know. I'm not going to tell you how to suck eggs. He says that because his brains is just like a computer and everything, and it remembers so stuff. Every now and then he purges stuff he doesn't need, but that memory he keeps. He keeps that memory so he can watch it over and over again. So it makes him out to be quite a like fucking hell. Is this a Marvel superhero or a villain? You know what I mean? Okay, again, Nazis bad, Hitler bad. I'm going to say this over and over and over again. Right, very very bad. But it doesn't feel like heroes. Heroes traditionally like don't kill, right? Or like I know Steve Rogers, Captain America went through war. Bucky, they killed Nazis, but that's in a World War II setting. It makes sense. Now modern day, it's like it, heroes have a more of a moral compass. It's like anyway, let's get to the point. There's this compound, right? There's this red. They're called either skulls. I don't know. It's like a red skull shoot off, and they're essentially white supremacists and Nazis. Bad, very very bad. Going to say it over and over again. Bad, bad, bad. I'm not supporting these people, and they it doesn't explain why they're bad. Doesn't explain why the Ultimates are there. They're not. Doesn't say we're here to stop this bomb that they've got and they're going to blow up some schools, right? They're just, yeah, we've heard there's some baddies there and we're going to go in. And they apparently, like, something to do with Namor being there, right? Namor being there, Namor. So they just blast in, indiscriminately start killing all these, like, American hicks, you know? Not sort of thinking, well, we're heroes. Maybe we need to sort of capture them and re-educate them and try and, you know, get that indoctrination out of their brains and give them the chance at a real life instead of following these ridiculous Nazi fucking, I don't know, ideology, right? They just go in and in the most brutal way slaughter the entire camp, right? And then they find this wall. And it's a bit like Kraven the Hunter's wall of trophies, right? And there is a perfectly stuffed, standing upright Namor the Submariner. Clearly he's dead, right? And then they explain that in Atlantis, he was overthrown and he was killed, and they put the body out on this ceremonial place in the sea, and it was visited by, you know, all the Atlanteans that loved him and missed him. And the sea itself didn't destroy the body. The body was perfectly preserved, right? And 70-odd years have passed. 70-odd years have passed. And this was big news, right? Big news across the globe, right? So they've gone in there to get Namor, who I hope I'm reading this right, who they know is already dead, yeah? So to me, they're not going there to, like, stop these bad guys from doing something bad. It's a death squad. They've gone in there to absolutely kill everyone they see and take this dead body back. Anyway, they get to the leader of this sort of Red Skull offshoot. They've adopted the morals of the Punisher and everything else. And guess who it is when they reveal who it is? Oh, guess who would be the worst person that Steve could possibly imagine that this person could be, this Red Skull? Bucky Barnes. It's like, oh, it's this universe's Bucky Barnes. And everyone that I've read all these reviews, they're like, oh my God, we didn't see that coming. We didn't, because it's never been done before, Brubaker, right? But Brubaker did it right. When you got it, it was like, wow, I didn't expect, there we go. Yeah, I've got them as well. They did it right, and it meant something. This was just like, oh, surprise, it's Bucky Barnes. So I watched a lot of videos about this, and some of the YouTubers that I watched, they said the same thing. It's like, they don't seem like heroes in this. There's no story. This is all about ideology. This issue, the Hawkeye was about, you know, America's appropriating Native American land and the transgender issue. The other issue was about white supremacy. The other issue was about capitalism. This issue is about Nazis bad because it's trendy and cool right now because it's all. And to be honest, I'm almost certain that this wasn't written months and months and months ago. This was him going, oh, I want to capitalize on the current issues about Nazis. And again, Nazis bad, Nazis bad, Nazis bad, right? But like, there's no story in here. The Ultimates turn up, already knowing that they're not rescuing anybody. They're extracting a dead body. They brutally, without thought, murder every single person in that camp and then walk off with the body. Where's the story? How does that tie in with the Maker? It's just terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And I'm just ashamed. That's not our heroes, is it?
I just want to read fun stories with characters I like.
Yeah, but fun stories, but I don't mind dark stories either. And I don't mind stories that. Yeah, I don't mind stories that like touch on political things because comics have always reflected what's going on in the world, good and bad, right? So I have no problem with it. But this is Dennis Camp's personal mission to take his activism to you, and it is not wrapped up in a little sort of package of within a superhero story. It's in your face. This is what I believe, and if you don't like it, you're wrong. And I'm ashamed. And this is going through a lot of Marvel books, and then the other Marvel books, if they're not completely full of ideology without any story, again, it's okay to talk about issues that are important to you, but have a story that involves characters, right? It's just terrible. Spider-Man is a mess. There's 4 Spidey titles that came out this week. I read a couple of them, and I wish I hadn't. Like, every Marvel book, practically, that I read this week was just... It's just... The quality is the worst Marvel have been in years.
When it comes to Ultimates or Spider-Man, let's just read Ultimate Spider-Man.
It's the only book worth reading the Ultimate Line. Now, and I'm going to tell you right now, right? I'm going to say this, and I'm going to risk you losing subscribers here. Not that we got many, but I promised that I wouldn't pander to the people who watch me. I would always be truthful, right? So if it takes me 10 years to get 1,000 followers, fine. At least every time I've made a video, I've told the truth, right? I've spoken what I believe is right. You with me? So I'm going to say this, right? I'm going to get butchered and people will unsubscribe it, and I don't care. Is that comics are not comics anymore? They are vehicles for activism, to be pushed into a younger generation's brain. And comics are ruined right now. They're absolutely terrible state, which is why you've got 72 variant covers per book just to make up the numbers on the books. And I think if these publishers and these editors don't wise up soon, right, you're gonna see the end of a lot of comic book publishers, because it's not about the story anymore. It's about ideology. And this has happened in Disney movies. It's happened in the whole Marvel U. We could talk about all the franchises that have been destroyed, Kathleen Kennedy, Star Wars, and all this kind of stuff. And that's what's happening in comics, right? And it's upsetting me because I look forward to these books every week, right? And comics aren't expensive. Sorry, I take that back. Comics used to be inexpensive. They're not now. Like an average book is what in America, what, $5, I guess?
$5.99.
And $5 to have someone put all their bullshit ideology into my head without a story. I'm paying for a story, not your ideology. And it's the same with, like, let's get back to the Ultimates. Ultimate Spider-Man tells a good story, whether you believe it's a slow burn or not. It's a good story about characters, right? Which is why you buy the comics. You don't want to go there and have some like ultra left-wing bullshit thrown at you. This is my escapism, right? If I wanted to do that, I'd just turn on the Legacy News if I wanted that, right? Or open up Instagram or Twitter. It's everywhere. So if you're going to tell a story, tell a story. If you want to put a personal belief in it, make it important to the story, but not the story. It's not the story. And it's sad. And this is where we land ourselves with. I don't know. I mean, you're usually quite quiet about these things because you're very much a much more gentler person than I am. You like to get on with it and do your thing. But it's ruining comics. Like I'm at the point now. I'm not looking forward to 99% of what's coming out every week. And this whole point of this channel is to celebrate comics, right? Talk about what we love. Talk about what we didn't like. But I don't know. It's going down the tubes, my friend. So based on that, how many minutes? 12-minute rant. Right, which I'm probably going to end up with 0 subscribers, but this is my truth. Everyone else is allowed to have their truths. That's mine. I'm going to start with a positive review with Juvenile number 3. Is that the correct cover? I hope. I don't think it is. I think we might be on Juvenile 4. Let's find out. Now, this book is out from Image by Jesús Orellana, and I've been shouting from the rooftops about this book, because it is absolutely amazing. And I'm going to hope, have you caught up with it yet?
I've read the first 2 issues. I really
You got the first 2, right? So we are actually on Juvenile 4 now. So I've put the wrong cover in there. But you know what? We'll make up for that, because I want to show you the art. I really want to show the art on this book. So let me work some magic, some in studio magic, right? Because I believe this book needs a little bit more of a show and tell. So let's turn this off and let's look at this cool thing, man. So not only is it a fantastic story, right? The style of the art is amazing, right? I love the style of art, but it's all told in these panels, like I mentioned before, right? So every page are these full length panels. And I don't think I've seen that in comics before or very often, right? And it's every issue. It's like this. And it is incredible. It really works. You do feel like you're watching a film. Now, I know Jesús, it made a movie. I think that's what brought him to prominence and fame. But this book is just stunning. I mean, look at it. Every single page is an absolute delight. So let's talk about this book. So basically, we're in this world where a lot of kids are stuck in these like detention centers because when they're 18, the truth of it is that they have powers, right? And the adults are scared that when they hit 18 and these powers manifest or whatever, that the adult's going to have trouble, right? So what they do is they keep them dosed up in these institutions and they basically lobotomize them. when they hit a certain age. But this kid comes into this place, and this one's quite a notorious institution, and he's not been taking his tablets, right? So he can do telekinetic powers and everything else, and he shares it with this girl, and they're starting to have this sort of weird little sort of love affair going on. Anyway, while they're in there, lots of bad things happen. Some of the kids get lobotomized. There's a bully there. It's one of your classic sort of Lord of the Flies things, right? But the last issue, she decides, after Max, now he's the main protagonist in this, after Max is like taken to solitary and drugged out of his head to douse these powers, she decides to share with everyone, look, stop taking your pills, trust me. And they all discover they've got powers, right? And it's so cool. So you've got all these kids in here, right? And you see slowly through the book that they're starting to learn how to use these powers. They can float, telekinetic powers. They're like lifting shit behind the teachers, behind their backs. And they decide, listen, we need to do something about this. We need to start training. We need to make a prison break, essentially. So they drug one of the guards quite heavily by sort of using their sort of telekinetic powers to drop the pills in the drink. And then they go off to start training and basically become themselves again. So you see them slowly sort of put on their own clothes, because they all have to wear sort of prison duds, right? Regaining their identities, they're becoming themselves again, and it is so cool. So that's what this whole issue is about. They've all realized they've got powers. They're training to make a prison break. However, the guard that they drug wakes up, and then all the other sort of guards and the people that run this institution decide that it's time to sort of take back the farm, right? And the bully type of guy, the sort of the guy that doesn't get on with the main protagonist, he thinks, fuck this, it's time to run. And they're like, we're not ready. But he's like, no, it's now or never, let's go. So this is what happens by the end of the issue, is that they've locked a lot of these guards in one of the rooms, and they're trying to escape the institution. And on the way out, they burst into a room and find one of the kids being, I guess, lobotomized, one of their brains being messed with. It's amazing. I absolutely love it. I mean, look at this art. Look at it. It's just beautiful. This is probably one of my favorite indie books.
No, it's a cool little book.
In 40 odd years of reading, 45 years of reading comics. I don't know when I started. 5. It's just amazing. So that's cover 4. There's one more issue, unfortunately. That's the only sad thing about it, that it is only 5 issues. But I tell you what, I'm hoping he leaves it on a cliffhanger to open it up to tell more stories, because it's just a fantastic book. And if all the other comics were this quality coming out from Marvel and DC, mate, we would be spoilt for choice. Absolutely spoilt for choice. So there we go. Super positive review after my rant. So please catch up with it, Jim. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah.
You will not be disappointed. Okay, Gail Simone, one of the channel favourites. Has she smashed it again with this? Well, I tell you what, she has been smashing it with sales for this book. This is consistently one of the top 10 selling books. So you're going to tell me
it deserves to be.
It deserves it, Jim. All right, what happens in number 11?
Uncanny X-Men issue 11, published by Marvel, written by Gail Simone of Birds of Prey and Deadpool fame, with art by Javier Garrón, with cover art there by the wonderful David Marquez, who I'm told is coming back in 2 issues' time for an extended run.
Ooh.
So that's
Happy
going to
Jimmy.
be very, very exciting. So this issue concerns creator and mentor of the X-Men, Charles Xavier. He's turned himself in at the end of the critically acclaimed Krakoa era, and he's currently incarcerated in Greymark Prison, which was formerly Xavier's School for the Gifted, the X-Mansion. Now, Rogue's team of X-Men that compromises Wolverine, Gambit, Jubilee, and Nightcrawler. They're training a brand new bunch of mutants called the Outliers. Now, we open across the galaxy in Shi'ar space, and Xavier's daughter, the teen empress of the Shi'ar, he fathered with Elandra, is under attack by a bunch of Shi'ar revolutionaries, and she's defended only by her auntie, Deathbird. The rebels get the best of Deathbird during this combat, and Alexandra sends a psychic distress call, reaches her father. Now, he pleads to his former lover and inmate, Sarah Gaunt, to free him, and using her powers, she does. So he's out. Meanwhile, Rogue's team are mentoring the Outliers. They've got a makeshift danger room built in a barn and a farm in Louisiana. They're staying with some friends of Gambit, and they're basically putting the Outliers through their paces. Rogue says they're going a bit easy on the Outliers, so she asks Gambit to take down one of them, any one of them. And he charges up a card and lets it fly at poor little Jitter. And so Jubilee's quite pissed off at Rogue about that, comparing him to Cyclops's, comparing Rogue to Cyclops's version of leadership. Then Karina Ellis, the Warden of Greymalkin, she calls Rogue asking for their help, and she informs them that Xavier has a mutant tumor, which is the same sort of thing that Harvey X had in the first issue of the run. Now that was the kid in the hospital. You'll probably remember.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, so he has a mutant tumor, and
that got me right in the feels when I read that one. I tell you, I was like, "Oh, Gail, what are you doing to me?"
Yeah, Xavier's got the same kind of tumor that Harvey X had, and he can't be allowed to get free. So Rogue's team arrive at Greymalkin. Xavier is clouded and confused, and when he sees them as his original class. So that's a really nice little touch from Javier Garrón then, and he just takes them down easily and leaves. And this is to be continued across the X books. And
is this the X Manhunt story?
Yeah, the X Manhunt story. It was continued in NYX issue 9, which basically, I'll give you the gist of it basically, because I did my due diligence and I did read the issues. Xavier screws over the NYX team to get the last remaining Cerebro from the X-Men's treehouse from the Krakoa run. So he's got Cerebro, so he can locate the other mutants. Then he goes to Storm in issue 6 of Storm, and he basically asks for sanctuary, which he receives from Storm. And then the Jed MacKay's X-Men turn up and demand that she turn him over. So that'll be continuing next week in X-Men, and I will be reviewing that.
So Gail smashed it out of the park again.
Yeah, this is absolutely fantastic. I love when any writer delves back into Claremont's classic Shi'ar stuff. So Gail, you did the right thing there. That was absolutely fantastic. This is running through all the X books, and Gail's doing an extra issue, not an issue of Uncanny X-Men. But a finale issue to it called X-Man Hunt Omega. That she's at least we know that she's started it and she'll finish it. So a decent start and end to the arc. Really, really cool. Javier Garrón's artwork's really, really nice as well. Yeah, recommend it.
Amazing. On the subject of the books I was mentioning earlier that are terrible from Marvel, NYX was another one. That book is diabolical. It's getting cancelled. Yeah. Storm's it's awful, isn't it?
I couldn't get past issue 1 of NYX, but I had to read this for the crossover.
Terrible. It's terrible. It's getting cancelled. It's the same with all new. What is it? Not all new. The current X-23 book, Laura's book, Erica Schultz. Why is she even allowed to go near comic books? Terrible book. And all these books are what are dragging down everything else. They're all getting cancelled. I guarantee it. I think that as soon as Marvel wake up,
they're not on my radar. I don't read them.
So honestly, mate, they're some of the worst books I've ever read.
And look at the cap. I'm an X-Men fan. I should be reading all the X-Men books, right?
You should be.
There we go.
You should be. It's just so sad. Okay, Blade Forger by the Miranda brothers. Like I said, right, I know I had my rant in the beginning, but I didn't want all my reviews to also...
Did you?
Yeah, I may have mentioned a few things.
Not noticed.
Well, listen, I didn't want all my reviews to be negative too, so I wanted to find books which I could try and review and everything else. So I put Blade Forger in there, just as a random, right? It's another Mad Cave book. Mad Cave are a bit hit and miss, let's be honest. And this is by Inaki Miranda and Roy Miranda, right? So how do I explain this book? Because this whole issue is just trying to do too much all at once. Tell years worth of story in 20 odd pages, and it's fighting really, really hard to make any of it make sense because it jumps back and forward so many times. I actually had to read a couple of reviews to find out if what I read was right, and it was bizarre. But basically, right, we're in this sort of there's been this huge war, and there's an energy source called Quorum. A never before seen energy source, not Energon. And after years of constant death and destructions, the Lord of the Lands agreed to stop fighting and sit at a table, and they decided to do this treaty called the Blade Forges Treaty, right? And that's what was born from that. This established the centralization of the quorum, and this would be done through one government, one central government led by a neutral emperor, right? Now, this is where the Blade Forges come in. And I'm going to read it from the bump from the book. It says, the emperor would have to be a blade forger, a mystic swordsman, and defend the title in a tournament called the Tournament of the Five Rings every 5 years, right? And so every 5 years, blade forgers from every corner of the empire would fight for the chance to become the emperor, right? Okay. So it sounds pretty interesting. So I thought I'll give it a little whirl. So we meet this dude. He's like a badass, right? And it's his it's finally his chance to go to this event and become the emperor, right? And he's university loved. He's a man of the people. He cares about the people. The current emperor is not a great person. You know, that usual shit where the emperor's, you know, terrible to his people. And I thought, all right, here we go. And like visually, there's this part that's explained in this book, which I didn't actually get. Because he turns up as this like muscled warrior with his sword, and he flies in his aeroplane. So it's a bit of mixture of technology and feudal Japan, if you know what I mean, and sword and sorcery. But like they transform into these ultimate warrior looking dudes, right? And I just thought, oh God, all right, this is awful. Anyway, they try and stop him from getting there. They don't. Then we get flashbacks that, you know, he's been trained since he was a child from a poor family. And he's the usual crap. You know, you even get the little one page montage of him training as a child, getting excited when he gets his first proper sword. And then it shows back and forth, back and forth, back and forth as he gets older, up to the point where he becomes the emperor. So he goes there, he challenges the evil emperor, he becomes the emperor. And then we jump 40 years into the future, and his son is at the head of this table of the government, of the empire, whatever. And his father's become a bit of a sort of not loved anymore. He's gone directly the opposite. They're pulling down his statues, and they're deciding what to do with this angry mob. And then we get this part where his father, who's called Awada, by the way, I should have mentioned, Awada is the character you introduced at the beginning, goes into this weird dream state place where he fights this opponent, and it's like a premonition that he is going to lose, right? And he's never lost. He's been the emperor for 40 years. He's unbeatable, but he's going to lose. Then we jump back in the past, and we find out that he's got a daughter, which we don't see at the beginning of the book. And I was like, what the fuck is this about? Like, it is really, really confusing, right? There's so many flashbacks. There's so many jumps in the thing. It's convoluted. I don't know what's going on really with this book. But I thought, I'm just so disappointed because it's just quantity over quality of books that are coming out now. And they're wondering why the comic book industry is on its ass. You know what I mean? It's because, like, if you thought of the early days of Image, right? There was a lot of bangers. I mean, you got the bad stuff, right? Let's be honest, right? We all picked up a few of the bad books, but there was banger after banger, right? And it just seems like a lot of these companies are putting out as many mini-series as they can in the hope one's going to go Walking Dead. One's going to go like Invincible. And what it's doing, it's breaking the trust between me and the publishers when they put stuff out like this. Now, some people might like it. I didn't. The art wasn't bad. The art suited the story. The art was actually quite good. Not my favourite style, but not bad. But do you know what? It's not one of those books that's just going to go on the pile and I'm never going to touch it again. So that's what I thought of that one, mate. Avoid. Okay, so on to Marvel. Now, there are a few good Marvel books, right?
Yeah,
and this one's been, in your opinion, consistently great, right?
Fist of Khonshu. They are my two favorite books that Marvel putting out, along with Ultimate Spider-Man. But you talk about Ultimate Spider-Man.
Oh man, I love it. Look, it's only fair that I've read all the bad stuff.
But those three books, those three titles, they are the best.
They are
that Marvel put out currently, in my opinion.
I agree.
So to talk about this issue, we have to talk about the last issue because I didn't talk about it for whatever reason. Moon Knight is in a turf war with Achilles Fairchild, who's this mobster drug lord who's flooding the streets with this illegal glitter. It's basically fairy dust, but a narcotic. And so he's decided to, well, basically Moon Knight has decided to challenge him. He knows he's an ex-boxer. He knows he's a farm boy. He thinks he can take him in the ring and, make an example of him. So Khonshu says to him, you notice that whenever I bring you back from the dead, you always keep your scars to remind you of where you've been. Look at Achilles Fairchild's body. He doesn't have any scars. What does that tell you? And Moon Knight's like, oh my God, he has powers. So he realizes too late he has powers, and Achilles Fairchild's like, no, I don't have powers, but I was raised on a farm, a shining farm in Asgard. It's just like, whoa, dear me. He's going to throw down one Asgardian. It does not go well. Anyway, so Moon Knight, Fist of Khonshu issue 7, published by Marvel. Issue 6, published by Marvel, written by Jed MacKay, art by Domenico Carbone, and cover art by David Paratore. So Moon Knight, the resurrected avatar of the Moon God Khonshu, he lies broken in the ring after his fight. Tricked by Asgardian drug lord Achilles Fairchild into fighting a boxing match that he couldn't possibly win. The Midnight Mission, led by Tigra and Hunter's Moon, they demand to Khonshu that he locates the missing Mark Spector because basically Achilles Fairchild has taken the body. His reasoning is that every time Mark Spector gets killed, Khonshu just brings him back at full strength.
Mm-hmm.
And so if he takes his broken body away and buries it somewhere, then Khonshu can't find him. Then he can't come back from the dead. If he keeps him near death but not dead, he can't be resurrected and brought back to full strength. Now, Khonshu warns a comatose Moon Knight every resurrection that he gives him takes him closer to full insanity, but he's not quite dead this time. So anyway, Hunter's Moon and Tigra, you can see on the front cover, they're tipped off by Khonshu about Mark's location, and they free him from the trunk of a car just in time. Back at the still powerless Midnight Mission, Soldier and 8-Ball, they lay Moon Knight down in Khonshu's sarcophagus, returning him to health. And then Moon Knight addresses the mission, telling him he made a mistake facing Fairchild head on. It's time to dismantle the operation once and for all, piece by piece. Another absolutely stunning issue. Alessandro Cappuccio left the title, unfortunately, but Dev Pramanik and Domenico Carbone are both doing a really excellent job fitting into his style and keeping the artwork consistent. So yeah, another recommendation from me.
Amazing. Amazing. I will binge this book when I get the chance.
Yeah. Jed MacKay's Moon Knight is top Marvel.
Amazing. So, bit of DC now. So, Two-Face I've been reading. This is issue 4. The quick premise is Harvey's trying to redeem himself. So, in the underground, he's formed this kind of judicial court where he's trying to take down some of the bad guys by taking them to court, basically, inside the confines of like it's a criminal court. So if a baddie does something to a baddie, he puts them on trial and he proves them right or wrong. So he's trying this kind of redemption arc, right? He wants to earn his way back into the good graces of Gotham. Interesting concept. Now, on the flip side of that, right? Bad Harvey, Two-Face, he's been trapped inside sort of Harvey's mind prison, and he's been trying to break out. He's been trying to break out and try and say, no, Harvey, you're bad. You're not this good person. Let me out. I want to, as you would expect from Bad Harvey. So this issue, I think it was supposed to be the most sort of thoughtful and complex issue about this, because it all really revolves around Harvey's psyche, what's going on in his mind. It delves into a bit of his past when he was a child and everything else. But I think it's actually kind of the worst issue. So it's going to be a short review. So long story short, the bad part of Harvey, who's been locked away, is gaining power inside Harvey's brain, and he brings him into his own trial inside his own brain, inside this mind prison. And it's basically bad Harvey trying to break down good Harvey to take control of the whole body as such. So we get this sort of flashback to, Harvey being treated terribly by his father, And we get a sort of a bit of a, I'm not sure if this is, actually, I haven't read this anywhere else. We find out that the coin, the idea of a coin was given to him by his father because he was so indecisive. He said, you might as well flip a coin. And his father was really overbearing on him. So I think he attached something to this coin. So he's saying, listen, what you did, right, because you had all this bad stuff in you, you created this bad version of yourself in your brain, right? And you blame me for all that bad stuff. But really, at the end of the day, I am you, right? And that's what this whole issue is about. So we get some flashbacks. It's okay. I just sort of lost interest half the way through because it gets sort of real deep and I don't know, really
introspective.
And I just like, this isn't going anywhere. And then they touch on how his mother, you know, his loving mother and everything else. And then at the end of it, there's been this character that's kind of been in this mind prison throughout this, with this weird mask with this eye on it. And it turns out to be a construct of his mother. I was like, okay. You see what I mean? It's just like the whole excitement of this book is gone now because, like,
I haven't read any of this book.
Yeah, but it's sort of so well. The premise of Harvey battling the two halves of his mind, inside his mind, this mind prison, and everything else. I mean, I know they had this weird little premise of it, like he's prosecuting criminals in the criminal underworld. And I thought, okay, if that leads to something really interesting, but I kind of lost interest in it. The art was nice. Like, I'll be honest, the art has consistently been really nice throughout this book.
Who's the artist?
I should have said that from the beginning, right? Veras.
Okay.
Yeah, Fábio Veras. Nice art. The colour's good. The covers are by Ivan Placencia, I think. Yeah, it looks good. It looks good. But this issue just felt too much.
It's a shame when the creative team aren't pulling together, isn't it? Someone's not pulling their weight.
Yeah, I've really had high hopes for this book. It's got to be a mini anyway, right? It can't be a... I'm not sure if it's an ongoing. I don't think it will be. But yeah, sad. I'm going to continue with it. I think maybe this issue. I think
just a blip.
It's a bit of a weird. Yeah, I think Ward wanted to really get into the nitty gritty of what's going on in Harvey's mind, where Harvey has been, where it's going, where it's at right now, and like really focus on the internal struggles of Harley and the duality of the character, and that's fine. But I just felt it was a lot. It was a lot. And a bit too much for me. Talk about Thundercats, yeah?
Yeah, sure.
Go for it.
Thundercats issue 13, published by Dynamite, written by Declan Shalvey, art by Drew Moss, and a cover by Lucio Perillo. Now, I want to preface this with I've loved every issue up to now.
You have?
Thundercats issue, from Drew Moss and Declan Shalvey. I think they're doing absolutely fantastic work. The world building, they're grabbing the nostalgia, but they're bringing enough new elements to make it work. That said, this is a departure from that. It's a self-contained silent issue focused on snuff. No dialogue or narration for 75% of this issue, so let's get going. We open on Snuff in front of Mum Ra's Onyx Pyramid, and will he rescue his leader, Lion-O? No. A portal opens and he leaps through it and he lands in a lush green valley. And there he chases butterflies, avoids vines, and sleeps in a tree until another portal opens. This takes him to a cave, a council of snuffs, I guess you'd call it. Bigger, more hair, different colors. He has a Pokemon style battle with some of them, and then armed gunmen burst in, attacking the cave, and he flees into yet another portal, landing him back in the desert in front of Mum Ra's pyramid. And he's greeted by Apex, and Apex is a damn cool character. He was introduced in a one shot last year, and it turns out that he is Lion-O from the future, like Cable style. He's absolutely awesome. He greets Snuff affectionately as an old friend, and he tells Snuff, because the dialogue starts like 75% into the issue, the dialogue starts, and he tells Snuff that his fate is linked to that of the Thundercats, and he must gather the forces and save Lion-O and the rest of them, or they're all doomed without him. And that's the end of the issue. Now, I really hope we get back to business as usual next issue, and I'm sure we will. I'm sure this was just a blip, but Declan Shalvey, I've defended you so many times, man. What the hell were you thinking with this one? It was just weird, and it didn't fit. I mean, I can understand if you had something to say about Snuff to do this, but Man, it went over my head. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I'll pick up the next issue.
Oh
But
man.
I can't recommend this one.
But the thing is, I love it when they do it. It's like Ecstatics. When they do an issue, it's just my brain is not good. Dupe. When they do like a whole issue with Dupe and that, it's actually really fun. It's a nice departure.
Angela, I'm all for breaking the format. I mean, Matt Fraction's and David Adger's issue of Hawkeye, where this focuses on the pizza dog for one issue. That's one of my favorite issues of all time, But this was just weird, and it didn't fit consistently with the rest of the tone of the book, and it's a real shame. But I can't recommend this issue.
That's not good. All right, let's move on. So I'm going to preface this. It's going to sound like a real heavy episode here. But now, as I was saying before about books being absolutely steeped in ideology and having a message and everything else, and creators being given the chance to write these huge books because of their political stance or social political stances, or the fact they're LGBTQ, or whatever. Now, a lot of writers are getting chats on big books purely because of that, the whole DEI debate. Now, this book has stirred up a lot of controversy. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to go into this level-headed and give my true opinion of it. So a little bit of a backstory here. I'm not going where you think I'm going as well. Some YouTubers have absolutely gone hard on this book. So it's written by Nicole Maines, who's an American actress. She played a Neo-Null Dreamer in the Arrowverse TV show. Right now, she's actually.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah,
okay, that's interesting.
She is
trans Dreamer.
Yeah, she's transgender.
Character.
Yeah, she's transgender. Okay, and she portrayed, like I say, Dreamer, who the first transgender superhero. Right.
Okay.
I've got no problem with that. My rule in life is you can do what you want and be whatever you want, as long as you don't hurt yourself or someone else. I don't give a shit. Right. I don't give a shit. Right. I'm not against any of this stuff that's out there. Right. I'm not. I just don't like the story being removed for a message, right? It's like, tell a story within your message. So this book is getting put through the absolute ringer by various comic book YouTube channels. And then you've got the very, very, very active and vocal supporters of the book that are hailing it as brilliant and everything else. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to go into this level-headed, and I'm going to read it. So one of the things that has been picked up was a preview showed before the book came out that the character was having a dream of having bottom surgery. So you got all these YouTubers going, how dare you put this in our books and all this, that and the other. And I said, hold on a minute. It's a preview. You don't know what's in the story. You don't know what's in the book. And they showed the character on the operating table. And I thought, do you know what? I think it's one of those times where people have jumped the gun. I think they've jumped the gun. So I'm going to read this book. So I wanted to give a little preface before I'll give a little review. So Secret Six, not to be confused with Gail's Secret Six, which was very, very good. Right?
Yes, it was.
This is 100% a book that DC wanted to put out to assemble all the LGBTQ characters. Absolutely 100% it is that. And you know what? It's absolutely okay for publishers to put out books like this. So let's dispel that first myth, right? Everyone reads comics, so there should be comics for everyone, right? They're not just for me, not just for you, all right? And that's fine. So I thought, okay, it could be quite interesting. So they have assembled a cast. Like I say, all the characters are LGBTQ characters and everything else. So a little backstory more of this, right? So Amanda Waller, and I'm going to read the thing here because it's important, and her Suicide Squad stole the superpowers of every metahuman of the planet, and for a time attained absolute power over the world. We know that, right?
That was last summer's big event, Absolute Power.
Yeah. Now Amanda Waller is a prisoner in the penitentiary. She once housed all of the people with powers, right? And while Dreamer was a prisoner there, now she's a prisoner there. God, it's so confusing. Waller was visited by Dreamer, right? Who went to Waller's mind and locked away every secret she had ever learnt, right? Now, without her superhero intel to use as a sword and a shield. Amanda is vulnerable, and there's no shortage of people who want to take their shot at her, right? So that's what this is about. So we do start the issue with her having a dream about having surgery, right? And there's no point in this book where she says it's bottom surgery. And this is because someone read an interview where Nicole Maines says that's what's happening in the book, right? But everyone's jumped on this bandwagon that this is terrible. This is terrible. It's never mentioned. In fact, it's a really good opener, right? She's on this table having this surgery. And while she's there, these sort of weird, skeletal, horrible, rotting flesh versions of her friends and other superheroes, they all start gassing her and trying to kill her. And she wakes up from it, right? And I was like, okay, that's a pretty good start. And then we get like some introduction to the rest of the characters, you know, like Superman's John Kent is there and he's flying to his flat with some food for his boyfriend and everything else. So look, this whole book revolves around LGBT characters. So of course this is what would happen, right? And then Dreamer turns up and says, hey, big problems. Waller is missing. So they all assemble their team and they decide to go to Belle Rev Federal Penitentiary to find out what's going on. Of course, the guards don't like them. They're attacked while they're in there. They bump into another villain or inmate, Black Alice, I think it is, and they cut a deal. Was like, you help us, we'll help you, and that's basically what happens, right? And then they try to escape. And they get beamed out by one of the characters. I forget which character does it. One of the characters can teleport you out. So she teleports them out, and they end up in this little house, and they find Deadshot there, right? Well, that's where it is. So, is it full of LGBTQ ultra left-wing ideology? No, it's not. It really isn't. This is one of those times where you've picked up a book, right, and it's got these characters with a story, and they're living their lives as they would, and I think it's okay. Is it Gail Simone's run? No. Is it an amazing story? Is it brilliant? No, it's not. It's an average comic book story with superheroes doing what they do in their normal life, doing what they do in their superhero life, and it's okay. So I really don't know what all the fuss is about. Yeah, she's done exactly what Dennis Camp should be doing with the Ultimates, is tell a story, right? And because these characters come from that specific background, whatever it is, racial, sexual, whatever, right? The way they act in that story tells you that, right? It's not just forced in your face. So do you know what? She's done it right. She's done it right. It's an okay book. I actually probably will read the next episode, next issue, just to see where it's going. And so I take my hat off, because that's how you use these characters. You're true to their identities, and you tell a superhero story. So well done. Is it a great book? I'm going to say it again, no. Right? But is it a bad book? Absolutely not. Does it deserve all the hate that it got? No, it does not. Definitely. So you know what? Well done, Nicole. You did a good job. You did a good job. I think what you've done for your community, right, is actually something that a lot of the people don't do. You've actually done them proud. They've got a book here they can be proud of now, and I'm all for it. So I can be positive when you expect me not to be. So Terminator, I did read the first couple of issues of this, and I thought it was a banger first issue, and from issue 2, I was like, I can't do it anymore. So how's it going? We're at issue 5 now.
Yeah, I mean, it's opened really strong with issue 1, and ever since then, I think it's basically been showing the Terminators reaching back through history, and I'm not sure what you're building to, Declan Shalvey. I'm sorry, I don't want to hammer on you twice in the same episode, but you lost me with the Viet Cong thing and the submarine thing, and Anyway, Terminator issue 5, published by Dynamite, written by Declan Shalvey with art by Joel Mulvey, and cover art there by Declan Shalvey too. Now this opens on Cape Canaveral in 1965. We see 2 astronauts entering a hangar, and then they start hacking each other up with knives before grabbing a drill. The next day after the launch, Houston, we have a problem. They've lost contact with the 2 astronauts of the Gemini X4 satellite. They basically, NASA needs to secure the upcoming Apollo mission. So it's basically it's the machines trying to meddle in human affairs. Again. So 2 more astronauts are sent on a maintenance mission, and these are our protagonists for the issue. To see what's going on. So they arrive at the Gemini site. They discover that they can't contact Capcom for some reason, and they're now alone out there in the black vastness of space. One of them bravely goes to scope it out, only to find a space suit with a smashed headpiece and blood floating in the air, as well as a terrifying Cyberdyne Systems Terminator who unnervingly rips off the synthetic flesh covering his endoskeleton and throws it at the astronaut in a really grotesque sequence that was really, really cool.
I like the sound of that.
And then a stray chunk of metal smashes straight through the astronaut's helmet, and he's gone, basically. The other astronaut then bravely faces off with the Terminator, managing to throw it off the platform. Managing to grab its leg and upend it and throw it off the platform. And he desperately tries to leap back to the spacecraft, but he misses and he floats off to his death in the vast blackness of space. It's a bleak series. The narration tells us the machines will reach back through time to strangle us in our cribs while the humans reach for the stars. In the end or at the beginning, who will win? This was another solid issue of Terminator after the first issue.
Oh, good. So it's returning to form, is it?
I really, really enjoyed it. Now, apparently, we're going to learn more about the future war that we saw in Terminator 2. At the start of Terminator 2, that's the what's coming up in the book from now on.
So it's tying into the films, is it?
Yeah, I think it's
that's interesting.
I think Carl Reese says something in the first movie about one of the previous models was easily identifiable than the T800s were, and apparently next issue is going to tell that story. So I'm interested to read that and see what happens there. Declan Shalvey, I will defend because I think he's a really solid writer. He's done some amazing work on Thundercats. Forget this month's issue, just pretend it didn't happen. And he recently said that he doing a run on Daredevil was something that he's always wanted to do, and I would love to see that for one. I'd really love to see him on Daredevil. But anyway, yeah, I recommend that issue. That was really, really good.
Amazing. That's all the reviews for this week, I guess. We're up to date, aren't we? So, Jimmy, your book of the week.
My book of the week is Uncanny X-Men.
Well done. I thought 11. It would be.
Just another tour de force from Gail Simone. No one can match her at the moment, in my opinion. Well, one of the best writers working in comics today.
There we go. High praise indeed, and justified too. Mine will be, of course, Juvenile issue 4. And I'm sad to say that the last issue's coming. I'm going to miss this book because it's so good. So that's it. So that's this week done. Looking ahead at next week, we got Absolute Superman. We got a couple of new number ones. We got Assorted Crisis Events, which I'm not. I want it to be good. I want it. It's called Assorted Crisis Events, right? I think it's another Cullen. Is it another Cullen Bunn book?
It's a book, right? Okay, sorry.
Yeah. A comic book. That's what we talk about on the show, Jim. And what else is there? There's another one. We only go out when it gets dark. One shot, which leads into the series. And we got Hell Hunters, a few others. What about you, mate? Is there much this next week coming for you?
It's a hell of a week for me, man. X-Men issue 13, Jed MacKay enters the X-Man hunt. Transformers issue 18, Daniel Warren Johnson continues his stellar run. And because lightning is striking twice on the same week, we're getting Void Rivals issue 17 as well for more big robot mayhem. And plus Daniel Warren Johnson's bringing it home with The Moon is Following Us, issue 7, which is one of my favourite indie books right now.
Amazing.
Lots to look forward to this week.
Lots to look forward to. Actually, no, I take it back. It's just dawned on me. Assorted Crisis Events isn't a Cullen Bunn book. Right? See, the whole thing in my mind was I began talking about Dennis Camp, and I was going to end with Dennis Camp. This is another Dennis Camp book. Right, but just to show you,
can we not?
No, but this is it, right? This is it. Is that even though I disagree with what he's doing with the Ultimates, it doesn't mean he's not going to write another amazing book which I'm going to love, right? Because he's decided this is what I'm going to do with the Ultimates. I'm going to try and do a Mark Miller, because the first Ultimates was extremely political, right? But it was wrapped into a story, right? So he might be looking at this as like, this book, I'm going to just tell a good story. So I'm not going to judge I'm not going to judge this new book on what he's done with the Ultimates. So I'm trying to be fair, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard going into it, not with that in the back of my head. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. All right. I'm going to do it. Right. That's it from us. Please don't unfollow us because I get angry about comics. And we will see you.
I mean, you're watching the wrong channel.
I know, but listen, the thing is, look, this is it, right? If I build this channel over years, building an audience that doesn't like me being me, then I'm never going to be me, right? And it's asking for a disaster, right? So I rather people who don't like my viewpoint on comics go, okay, not for me. Just like we are with certain books and comics, right? And I create an audience that understands where I'm coming from, because then if I say something that's a little bit, risque, I'm not going to suddenly lose thousands of followers and not have a chance to make cool videos. So it's like I want to be honest, but like there's a lot of crap books out there, and we're paying for them, and because we pay for them, they keep making them, and you have to vote with your wallets, right? And the problem is like a lot of people are buying it out of completionism, right? I'll be honest. I don't want not to have a complete run of something that I love, and because there's so many variant covers, it bumps up the numbers for a lot of these books. So it's like, I don't know. It just, comics need to go back, right, to being good again, right? Being good again. You can still talk about whatever topics you want, but tell a good story. Be true to the characters, or get the fuck out, basically. Right, it's a time where the writers need to be hired for skills and talents, not beliefs. Right, not because of their beliefs outside of comics, and that's the problem. Anyway, that's it from me. That's it from you, I guess. We'll catch you in the next one.